Howdy, howdy, this is Mr. Potter. What we're going to do in today's video is talk about the need for addressing. And so we're going to go back to the history of computer science once again, go back to the history of networks. We're actually going to go back to the first computers that we had, which used something called circuit switching. And if you've ever seen pictures of old movies where a man or a woman is taking cords and plugging them into various holes, what happened is a physical circuit had to be made from one location following to another location. And once that circuit was made, then those computers or those telephones were able to communicate with each other. But that used up one of the circuits, and while that circuit was being used for that one communication, it could not be used for any other communications. And then when that circuit was done, when the communication didn't need to be over, that circuit would be released so other people could use it. And that worked fine for the old telephone systems, that worked fine for the old internet, but that started to run into some problems later on. So what I wanted to talk about today is I wanted to talk about the first email. Now, this was done by Ray Tomlinson back in 1971, and he worked for a company called Bolt, Beranek, and Newman. Bolt, Beranek, and Newman was a military contractor in the 1970s. They're currently owned by Raytheon. And Ray Tomlinson was the first person to actually send an electronic mail or an email through this ARPANET that we talked about yesterday. Now, you can see BBNs right here. This is where BBN is, and you see two computers here. These are the PDP-10 computers. These were one of the mainframes that were really prevalent in the late 60s and early 70s, and it's a picture of them right here. So this computer in front is called BBN-10XA. BBN by the name of the company, hyphen, 10X is the name of the operating system, and it's called A because it's one of two PDP-10s that are running the 10X operating system. And then back here, this is BBN-10XB. And so what Mr. Tomlinson did is he sat at this terminal back here. You can see this keyboard back here. And he sent an email message to himself at this other computer. So he's basically sending a message to Tomlinson at, and of course he was the first person to actually use this at for electronic mail, BBN 10XA. Notice that there's no .com or .net like you normally see when we talk about internet or we talk about other things. But this is the first time that an electronic message was sent to someone. And what he did is he actually had two programs. One that he wrote, which was called Send Message, SNDMSG. And its sole purpose was to send a message from one place on ARPANET to another place. Here's the other terminal where he would receive it. But then he also wrote, he modified the code to an existing program called CPYNET, CopyNet. And what this would do is for whatever the mail file that was here, an electronic mail on a particular system was prevalent throughout the late 60s. It was the notion of sending electronic mail across from one computer to another that was the novel part. But what he did is he made it so that if I had an existing mail file, that this could be appended to. You can't change the contents of this. This is kind of, preserved. But we can add stuff to it, and more mail can be added, and more mail could be added, basically appended to the existing file. So Mr. Tomlinson was the first person who actually did this, and he had to come up with the notion of, okay, how do I refer to another computer? And so he came up with the notion of the @ symbol, saying that's going to go from one location to another location. But he also came up with the notion of the company and the operating system that's being used, because he wanted to be able to talk to the computer at that source. So email was one of the first things that was needed in order to make this communication happen, but there were other network connections that needed to be made. In 1972, we had the first remote connection And by a remote connection, I mean that someone could actually log on to a system on another computer and execute client programs on there. 1973, you started having file transfer. In other words, now you could actually bulk transfer files electronically rather than having to store them on tape and ship them to the computer that you're talking about. So these are other ways that network connections were done. But part of the issue is, how do we actually get those network connections? And that takes us to the activity that you're going to be doing in class today. So I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to show you, this is at studio.code.org. This is lesson 2, stage 2, the need for addressing. And you'll see a room over here where people can log in. It says up to 6 people may join. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing a game of Battleship. But you're not just going to be playing one game of Battleship, you're going to be playing a large group game of Battleship, where there's going to be a group of at least 3 of you, and you're going to be playing Battleship simultaneously with everyone else in your group. And you're going to have to make sure that you're clear with who you're talking to, what information you're giving, and who you're getting information from as well. So I'm going to go ahead and join this room. So now here I am in this room. You can see mistapotta OHS over here in the corner. But I'm going to also join this room. And so what you'll see now is that you see 2 people in here now. You see mistapotta OHS, and you see this other person, TDP. And TDP can send messages to me. So let me get some of that over here. And I'll see those messages pop up. Now, I'm seeing these messages pop up, but I'm not getting any information about who's sending them. So I see this hello, but that's all that I see. And if I were to go down here and type in something like hi yourself, then it's going to pop up here as well, and it pops up on the other screen as well. So what you're going to have to come up with in this activity is not only a way to make sure that you know who you're talking to, who you're getting information from, but also you need to convey those playing of Battleship. You're going to need to let people know what the coordinates are that you're trying to target. You're going to have to let people know if they've made a hit or if they've made a miss. And then later on in the activity, you're going to have to make sure that you make it concise. Because remember, we're talking about 1970s architecture where each bit that's sent is at a premium. Each bit that's sent is costing money. So we're going to have to come up with some novel ideas, and that's what you're going to do in today's activity. So once again, this is Mr. Potter. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.